Good morning, Hong Kong. Good morning, everybody. Good morning from my home in Hong Kong. And welcome to Yoga Talk number 9. Yoga Talk number 9. Good morning, Shelley. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, O. Good morning, Summer. Good morning, Korea. Good morning, Regina. Good morning, Christina. Ha ha ha. Good morning, Jenny Chung. Good morning, Maria. Hello. Good morning, Lisa Mack. Hello, Lisa Mack. Miss you. Eventful Saturday morning, indeed, Diana. Indeed, this is true. Yes, I am. We're having this talk now, and then directly after this talk, I will go into a level 2, 1 hour, and then directly after level 3, 1 hour. So it's quite a full morning. Good morning, Lawrence in Bali, Philippa. Good morning from New Zealand, Danielle. Yes, the morning denim shirt has a hole in it. Yeah. Good morning, Misty. Good morning, Agnes. Okay, so today I would like to introduce. Good morning, Freddie. Good morning, Jackie. Yes. Okay, so this morning I'd like to introduce a new contemplation, a new subject for us to consider. Good morning, Marcel. Good morning. Good morning, Serene. I was waiting for you, Serene. There you are. So this morning, I would like to introduce the idea that I did share a few days ago, but as we know, with these guardrails and these helpful teachings from yoga, good morning, Maka, good morning, there is a repetitive value. There is a beneficial repetition to our practices. And so with these teachings, it's the same. That we learn something, and in order for it to become digested and become part of us, we go back to review them. So I'll repeat myself today. And this contemplation is that what we don't know yet is more important than what we know already. What we don't know yet is more important than what we already know. And this idea is a common thought and something that I've heard over the years and considered here and there. But this lands much more deeply for me. Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Soul Korea again. This idea, I'll repeat again, that what I don't know yet is more important than what I already know. And this is greatly helpful. Now, we could consider that on so many levels. You could consider it in terms of what we know about ourselves and what we don't know about ourselves. Because what we don't know about ourselves is the volume. Like, you cannot measure what you don't know about yourself. How much do you not know about yourself, or how much do I not know about myself? It's immeasurable. And yet what we know about ourselves is clearly measurable. We know what we know, but we have no idea what we don't know. I find this deeply fascinating, and I have this as a stark reminder every morning on my desk. When I first began living in Hong Kong, when I moved to Hong Kong to open Pure Yoga, when we first opened the first studio in Centrium, I knew so little, both about myself and about yoga and about business. I knew so little. It was incredible. But at the time, I was young and I was, naive, and I was all these things, and I was very motivated, super motivated. And I can remember back then the feeling that it was so important to know stuff. As a yoga teacher, we'd open this big sort of flagship studio, and there, I was on posters, and it was really wow, and like, hey, the yoga teacher, and I remember the feeling that I didn't know anything, but the stronger feeling was that I was supposed to know things. I was supposed to know all the things. And so I remember feeling very anxious, and I'm sure many of you can identify with that in whatever role you're in. You get a posting, you get a job, or you get some position, and there's this narrative that you start to play, like I don't know as much as everyone assumes I know. I do not have the tools that these people think I have. Anyway, so I remember trying to apply what I knew so much, and rather than in those early days understanding that I knew so little and I should pay most of my attention to what I didn't know, and that process became more primary over time. So during these first days in Pure Yoga, there was a small yoga community in Hong Kong. There's a small Iyengar community. There's a small Ashtanga community. There's a small Raja yoga community, Siddha yoga community. So all these like sub lineages of yoga. And they were more distinct back then. We were the hot yoga community. And so everyone had their own little worlds. Now there was this one teacher who was the longest tenured teacher in Hong Kong, had been teaching here for 30 years. And she decided, after we opened, it became sort of a big sort of blooming community and in Hong Kong. And this teacher had the Hong Kong Yoga Teachers Association, which was quite small. I think there's still one in Hong Kong. I don't know, to be honest. But it was quite small. There was a very small pool of people that was a part of this yoga teachers group. And she called meetings. So I remember my first meeting. It was at a bar that's no longer here. It was on Wyndham Street. No, Argonaut Street. And I remember going, and we sat down, and everyone was older than me, and everyone was also taller than me. I remember everyone was taller and long limbs, and I could feel like they were sleeping in Padmasana, and I was like the stiff Canadian chap. Anyway, she held this meeting, and one of the first things she said was, in order to keep the yoga of Hong Kong authentic, her recommendation to all of us was that we would read every morning some scripture or source material of yoga. That we would take it upon ourselves to read some teachings from the Bhagavad-Gita or the Yoga Sutra or the Tantra Loka or some seminal source text. And that we would use that as a lens to teach through. Like, we all had different styles of teaching. We all had different practices, different schools. But she was like, before we get so, completely immersed just in our small, asana or meditation or pranayama or chanting or whatever it was, could we take the lens of the wider philosophical view of yoga and let that help inform us every single day? Now, I was like, really? Wake up every morning and read the Yoga Sutra every day? Or get up every morning and read a verse of the Bhagavad-Gita every day? At the time, I was like, that seemed a little intense, or it seemed I don't know, it seemed like too much for me at the time. I was like, oh, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I've read the Yoga Sutra, whatever. And it's kind of like, I kind of got the gist, is the feeling I had. And it wasn't until later did I realize how that teaching lines up with this, what you don't know is far more valuable than what you know. When I wake up in the morning, I have a current running content, like a ticker tape, like CNN. There's information, there's knowledge, there's experience, and there's memory. But that every day, an input of knowledge that we've either forgotten, and I am deeply forgetful, and you all know that, deeply forgetful. I mean, I forget every birthday, including my own. Oh my God, it's my birthday. Okay. And very forgetful, and the things that I thought I knew. This is the other piece: is the things that I thought I knew, are revealed later to I not having known it. So it's like when I had read the Gita or the Sutra or Light on Yoga or whatever it was, whatever these teachings were, Georg Feuerstein's book, The Yoga Tradition, like I'd read them. I was told you should read that. Okay, the good yogi reads it. But my mind would be like, okay, I already know that. I already know that. So you get up in the morning and there's such a humility I find that you go back and you go, okay, I'm gonna read it again, or I'm gonna look into it again. I'm gonna look into something with these eyes that I don't know. That I shouldn't assume that I know. This happens in life so much, I find. When you talk to somebody who doesn't do yoga, and deep in your heart it would value them, it would benefit them, and you go, oh, what, you want to go to yoga? And yeah, I tried that. I tried yoga. Yeah, oh, it's not for me. Which is fair. It's not for everybody. I mean, it is. It's not for everybody. It is for everybody, but it's not for everybody, except it is. But this aspect of our mind is built into us. We think hi Carrie, we think we know. And I catch myself all the time. There's so many books that shifted my mind. There's so many people, there's so many practices that shifted me. And somehow later the mind is oh yeah, I know that now. So I as if it has no more value. But I have learned to realize for myself at least that there is more I don't know than what I know, even from one source. It's I think of my religious friends that go back to the Bible, or my religious friends that go back to religious texts, the Quran or the Torah or the Bible or the Buddhist scriptures, the sutras, and you go back and they read them every day, right? And it's okay, doesn't that get boring? It's no, because every day you wake up, yesterday changed us somehow, and you read the teaching again, you're oh my God, I had no idea that I was causing my own pain and suffering. And I think that the power of having new information and wisdom coming in is also immeasurable. It's immeasurable. It's immeasurable. And the ability to get up and start our day with inputting wisdom teachings, this is so potent. I mean, I think that's why a lot of us, really appreciate morning practice. Like I teach morning classes often, and people will say, oh, it's such a great way to start the day. That's my feeling too. Like in the morning, I want to start when there's that, tamasic-y, sattvic-y mind, where the mind is like kind of quieter than the rest of the day. And then start there and layer in some deep teachings. So the idea is that what we don't know is way more important than what we know. Now, I would add a simple idea that it is invaluable to read something that somebody great wrote. I don't mean just like reading articles online or reading, the newest interesting novel, dramatic novel or whatever. Those are all great. But I mean something that like stands out in history. Something that is like, wow. So I have two examples today. Well, I have three examples. I have 4 examples. I have 5 examples. But I'll just give you 3 examples today. So, because I'm saying source materials, right? And that can mean like anything for you. But for me, when I say source teachings or source material, what I mean basically for us is, and maybe I'll change this in the future if we have broader subjects, but in terms of yoga, source teachings are the ones that formed the bedrock of the tradition of yoga. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Gita, the Sutra, the Pradipika, all the tantric teachings, and these teachings are distilled. They're distilled teachings. So there's a lot of commentary on teachings now, and there's lots of extrapolated teachings in different forms, and I love reading a lot of that too. But the source teachings, you go back, and it's just like, it's so simple and so clear. And there's a gravity to these teachings. So those ones are very helpful. Okay, but beyond that, those source teachings, I want to offer, when I say we could read something great, every day, read something great that someone great wrote, And so one here is the Bhagavad-Gita. That's like my oldest version, the Stephen Mitchell, the Bhagavad-Gita Stephen Mitchell. Yeah, it's got like blood stains on it and coffee stains and tears of like regret and tears of joy. Okay, so there's the Gita. And then a second book I highly recommend is the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And it's a short book, and it's actually, the Meditations are by Marcus Aurelius, the old Roman emperor. It's a journal that he wrote that is now published as a book, so we read his personal journal, and it's fantastic, and it's self-reflective and contemplative, and it's really simple and humble. And then so that's the Meditations. And then the one that I'm currently reading that I'm pretty jazzed up on is, I'm like halfway, is the Autobiography of Malcolm X. And, Caroline, the Meditations is by Marcus Aurelius. He was the Roman emperor. So you can look him up. He's a famous person of history, so easy to find. But this book I was saying is Malcolm X's autobiography. And it's actually him talking to his friend Alex Haley. Alex Haley was the guy who did the movie Roots. Anyway, or wrote the book Roots. But the Malcolm X autobiography is profound. Wow. One of the things in that book that has really touched me is that he was this really kind of ghetto-like hustler in the U.S. in the late 50s, early 60s, and he ended up going to jail. Anyways, he had picked up lots of skills by living on the street and being a cool guy, and hanging out with musicians, and there was like drugs and girls and stealing and all this stuff, and he had this cool lingo, and he was a hipster, and he had all these cool clothes and all that stuff. But what hit me is he went to jail, and he has this come to Jesus moment, that he realized he knew nothing. He was sitting at the table talking with all these guys. This one guy started talking, and everyone was listening, and this guy was starting to talk with clarity, with wisdom, and he was in awe. Anyway, that sent him on a path where he basically spent his entire time in jail, which I think he was in jail 7 years, reading. He spent his entire time reading. And one of the books he read was the Webster's Dictionary. He read the entire dictionary. Now, I'm not recommending that, though I am considering myself. He read the entire dictionary and dictated all the words and definitions of all the words. Anyway, this he goes on and on about how he felt like he knew nothing, and that time was ticking, and that he wanted to know things. He wanted to understand himself in the world. And I think that's such a great reminder. It certainly has been for me, how powerful it is to acknowledge how little we know, and what an opportunity it is to learn and to become inspired and informed about ourselves and about life through reading great things by great people, and not being shy when we don't understand what it means. I mean, look, I read all those yogic scriptures and all that yogic literature and philosophy at a time where I basically didn't understand any of it. I just went through it. I had exams to write, so I was reading, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, what the heck is this? And yet, it is through that initial stage of confusion that opens the doorway for further inquiry and for a further reading of it. And you go, oh, and you start to catch on to things. It's like learning a language. I mean, sometimes I think we are learning our own language still. Like, we speak English, I speak English, kind of. But we're still learning it. It's like when we use a word, sometimes we don't even know exactly what it means. And there's a lot to be learned by recognizing what we're saying and understanding that what we know is limited. And that isn't meant to be devaluing or demotivating, but it's actually, I find it deeply motivating. Like, when you realize what you don't know and you realize what you want to know, then you have time to go for it, to apply yourself. And we've said in earlier talks how scheduling time. So Cora said she'll get up in the morning and read the Gita and probably fall back asleep. I get it. So some people don't like reading in the morning. I love it. The quiet, the windows open, the birds chirping. Cats are kind of nice in the morning. They're but you schedule timings. And scheduled timings make a ritualized reading schedule, and I'd even go as far as saying a ritualized writing schedule. The rituals and the timings of stuff, is so valuable. It's so valuable. And for me, one of the things that's helped me understand why that's valuable for me is that when something is measured, here's another quote. When something is measured, it can be managed. And when we don't measure ourselves and our time and what we do, then we can't really manage it. And I find for myself, it's like when I don't measure how much time, I schedule in phone calls to my mother. Hi, Mom. I schedule in phone calls to my sister. Hi, Allison. And I didn't used to. And I now know that without measuring it, it was ill-managed because I would go like weeks without checking in or calling. And that was terrible. That was terrible. It was losing connection and losing loving and appreciative responsibility in relationship. So I'm just looking at my notes for one more piece I wanted to share, but the basic premise is that, when we're able to be accountable to, be accountable to our time and our day, we learn that there is a lot more of time and opportunity than we had originally projected. So it's that what gets measured gets managed. This has been really helpful for me. What gets measured gets managed. So I measure my times for reading, and the common measurement is that one minute of the average reader's reading per day, it equals one book a year. Not that we're out for the Olympics to read the most books, like whatever, but certainly if you look back and you go, wow, if I measure last year, I read very little, or like the last 10 years, I read very little, then you just start incrementally and you start to ritualize something and you start to measure and you give yourself the chance to start to learn again. And I would even say that this is not learning, this is studying. This is studying. Yesterday we talked about the difference between learning, as we go, we're learning about ourselves and life, and studying, a focused, formal setting where we are choosing specific material and information and wisdom, and we're choosing to allow it to come in. So the shallowness of life over the course of a day is it's quite ruthless. The shallowness, the day can keep us up, and I know many of us are now online. I'm online all the time, and I find if I'm not careful, you can skim the surface doing things online all day and never drop into depth. So taking time out to read something great by someone great every day can allow us to access some depth and to penetrate deeper. And the power of measurement without being erotic, but like even at that, people have made comments to me already about these talks, like, oh my God, there's so many rituals and so much timing. Like, I just like to go with the flow. That's awesome. And when I go with the flow, I end up reading no books and never calling home and never, getting my stuff done. My cats go hungry. So when I start to ritualize, and it's, I guess maybe the best teaching in that for me has been timing my poses, timing my practices, which is an amazing carryover from the Iyengar world that I deeply, deeply bow to. So it's like measuring things lets you manage them better. Wow, in 5 minutes I did this. In 10 minutes I did this. And it really frees you up for the times you're not timing life. And it's like amazing. And you get to be spontaneous and alive and creative in ways that just come when your mind is sattvic. When you feel accomplished from your intentions, satisfied from your intentions, accomplished from your rituals, the mind relaxes. And there's hours in the day where it's just like, woo, just riffing and jazzing, Send me comments and messages. Send me love letters or send me hate mail, whatever you want. I am living off the messages. I'm so thankful for all of you guys. The axes of the universe, Mount Kailash. I can hear the wind blowing across the plains in front of it now. Ali, Mumbai, Ali. Let's practice, okay? Thank you, everyone. I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for another talk. Now I'm going to go into level 2 practice for an hour. You're welcome, Liz. And at 11:30, a level 3. This will be fun. I'm practicing. This is live. I'm ending this chat now, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, hi, Mary.